Most of the world's ecosystems are the result of millennia of coevolution by organisms adapting to their environment and each other until a stable balance is reached. Healthy ecosystems maintain this balance via limiting factors, environmental conditions that restrict the size or range of a species. These include things like natural geography and climate, food availability, and the presence or absence of predators. For example, plant growth depends on levels of sunlight and soil nutrients. The amount of edible plants affects the population of herbivores, which in turn impacts the carnivores that feed on them. And a healthy predator population keeps the herbivores from becoming too numerous and devouring all the plants. But even minor changes in one factor can upset this balance, and the sudden introduction of non-native organisms can be a pretty major change. A species that is evolved in a separate habitat will be susceptible to different limiting factors, different predators, different energy sources, and different climates. If the new habitat's limiting factors fail to restrict the species' growth, it will continue to multiply, outcompeting native organisms for resources and disrupting the entire ecosystem. Species are sometimes introduced into new habitats through natural factors like storms, ocean currents, or climate shifts. Your posture, the way you hold your body when you're sitting or standing, is the foundation for every movement your body makes and can determine how well your body adapts to the stresses on it. These stresses can be things like carrying weight or sitting in an awkward position. And the big one we all experience all day, every day, gravity. If your posture isn't optimal, your muscles have to work harder to keep you upright and balanced. Some muscles will become tight and inflexible. Others will be inhibited. Over time, these dysfunctional adaptations impair your body's ability to deal with the forces on it. Poor posture inflicts extra wear and tear on your joints and ligaments, increases the likelihood of accidents, and makes some organs, like your lungs, less efficient. Researchers have linked poor posture to scoliosis, tension headaches, and back pain, though it isn't the exclusive cause of any of them. Posture can even influence your emotional state and your sensitivity to pain. So there are a lot of reasons to aim for good posture. But lowering your blood sugar after a meal is just about the only benefit of drinking apple cider vinegar. Research does suggest that acetic acid can slow down the accumulation of body fat and prevent metabolic disorders in mice and rats. but there's little evidence that it has the same effect on humans. In one weight loss experiment, 30 volunteers drank 2 tablespoons of either apple cider vinegar, malt vinegar, or a placebo drink twice a day for 2 months straight, and none of them lost weight. In an older study with a similar design, participants did lose weight, but only about 1/3 of a pound each week, which McDonald's says isn't much. But if not for weight loss, what about using cider vinegar to whiten your teeth? I caution people against that. That's because cider vinegar is an acid. In fact, most brands have a pH between 2 and 3, which is similar to stomach acid, so swishing it around in your mouth can over time wear down the enamel around your teeth, leaving them feeling rough to the touch and more susceptible to cavities and decay. The consumption of berries can enhance beneficial signaling in the brain. Plant foods are our primary source of antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds, but some plant foods may be better than others. As I've explained before, 1 cup of blueberries a day can improve cognition among older adults, as shown in this randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial. And the same thing in kids. After just a single meal of blueberries, though, 2 cups may work better than 1. That single hit of berries may also improve mood. A double-blind, placebo-controlled, crossover study in which kids are asked a series of questions: are you very slightly or not at all, a little, moderately, quite a bit, or extremely interested, excited, strong, etc. Before and after drinking the placebo, no significant change, but 2 hours after consuming about 2 cups of blueberries, their positive mood scores significantly improved. They felt more enthusiastic, alert, inspired, attentive, that kind of thing. That was in young adults, ages 18 through 21, same thing in 7 to 10-year-old children. How do I learn to enjoy and embrace difficult things, and have it be an integrated part of my life? So, there are 2 things that really help me do that. Number 1 is more of a mindset shift, and it's more inner work. And number 2 is more of a practical, strategic thing that you do to yourself. Okay, so number 1 is to operate from an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset. If you're constantly telling yourself, oh, I have to go read books to get smarter. Oh, I have to go read a book now. Obviously you're not gonna have a good time while you're doing it. But if you identify as Somebody who enjoys reading books, it's something that you like doing, it's just a part of who you are, then you're way more likely to actually follow through with doing it. This next tip is a little bit more practical and a little less theoretical. And that is to utilize habit bunching. And that is when you pair an already existing habit that you are used to doing with one that you're trying to work on. So for instance, I'm a sucker for a great cup of coffee. Although modern money laundering methods vary greatly, most share three basic steps: placement, layering, and integration. Placement is where illegally obtained money is converted into assets that seem legitimate. That's often done by depositing funds into a bank account registered to an anonymous corporation or a professional middleman. This step is where criminals are often most vulnerable to detection, since they introduce massive wealth into the financial system seemingly out of nowhere. The second step, layering, involves using multiple transactions to further distance the funds from their origin. This can take the form of transfers between multiple accounts or the purchase of tradable property like expensive cars, artwork, and real estate. Casinos, where large sums of money change hands every second, are also popular venues for layering. A money launderer may have their gambling balance made available at a casino chain's locations in other countries or work with employees to rig games. One evidence-based way to better remember what you've learned is through spaced repetition, or spacing out your learning and practice of new knowledge or skills. Although this might seem novel, this is hardly a new concept. It was first described in 1885 by a German psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus. Here's how it works. Say you plot your retention, or how much you remember of something, versus time. Now you learn that something on day 0. Without reviewing it, the forgetting curve will look like an exponentially decaying curve, which is kind of scary. If you review, or better yet, actively retrieve, the material at increasingly spaced intervals after learning it, then the forgetting curve starts to flatten out and you'll get a lot better longer-term retention. Now, the goal here is to review the material at the right time. It turns out that the best time to revisit information that you are trying to learn is right around the time you would naturally forget it. Since forgetting typically follows this exponential curve, the trick becomes timing your study sessions around it. Montessori education is based on the principles developed by Maria Montessori, who opened her first school for children of low-income workers in an apartment building in Rome in 1907. The school was called Casa dei Bambini, Home for Children. This first casa was furnished with a teacher's table, a stove, a blackboard, some chairs, group tables for the children, and a cabinet filled with materials that Montessori developed in her earlier career when she researched how to teach kids who experience some form of mental disability. Maria Montessori created the materials after she realized that students seemed to understand complex concepts better when they engaged all their senses. Activities at this first school included personal care, such as dressing and undressing, care of the environment like sweeping, dusting, and gardening. Otherwise, they were free to move around and play with the materials. Montessori did not teach herself but instead oversaw the classroom work of her teachers. Montessori observed that children showed episodes of deep concentration and multiple repetitions of the same activity. Drug interactions happen when the combination of a drug with another substance causes different effects than either would individually. Foods, herbal supplements, legal drugs, and illicit substances can all cause drug interactions. Most drug interactions fall into two categories. Some take place when two substances' effects influence each other directly. In other cases, one substance affects how the body processes another, like how it is absorbed, metabolized, or transported around the body. Blood thinners and aspirin, for example, have similar effects that become dangerous when combined. Both prevent blood clots from forming, blood thinners by preventing the formation of the clotting factors that hold clots together, and aspirin by preventing blood cells from clumping into groups that become clots. Individually, these effects are usually safe, but taken together, they can prevent blood clotting to a dangerous extent, possibly causing internal bleeding. Here you're making an apology. There are 3 questions that you want to be able to answer. The first is, do we tell the truth? People want the company to tell the truth for 2 reasons. One is it gives them confidence that they know what went wrong. And so that means that they will presumably know what to fix. The other is that they want the company to be a truth-telling company so it can uncover the truth. The second is, on whose behalf are we acting? Is it clear that people understand that we understand that? And the third is, how do our actions benefit those people who trust us? So what is it that we're going to do in the future that's actually going to make people believe that we're going to fix the problem we created? And this is where all those facts matter, because if you've laid that out pretty clearly, then there is in fact a path to describe what it is that you're going to do. And so that action planning part is part of the apology, too, because that gives you confidence that the company actually knows how to get from the current state to the future state, where this kind of thing is not going to happen. So, why do humans feel awkwardness? According to Tai Tashiro, author of the appropriately titled book, Awkward, this is part of human evolution. In hunter-gatherer times, sticking with social norms, like saying thank you when someone gives you something, or waiting your turn for food, was a way to keep tight-knit groups together and keep out anyone who might be a threat. Today, we're still sensitive to tiny, even silly social customs like responding to "how are you" with "fine" as a sign of mutual respect. When you deviate from those norms, it's awkward. And for some people, these social graces just don't come naturally. Take eye contact, for example. Studies say the right amount of eye contact during conversations is about 3.3 seconds. But awkward people don't instinctively do that. But when we don't look people in the eyes, it makes them feel socially ostracized. According to Tashiro's work, awkward people tend to look at other parts of the face, like the chin or the ear, more than the eyes. Therefore, they might end up alienating the person they're talking to and missing out on important information about how that person might be feeling. The good news is that if your brain isn't great at social cues, it might be good at other stuff instead. Research shows that many autistic people are amazing at memory, pattern recognition, and problem solving.